The procession is making its way to the Angoa Stadium. Tito Mboweni played a pivotal role not only within the South African borders, but also outside of South African borders, particularly working with the AU Commission. I'm going to bring in Ms. Eba Galando, who is the spokesperson of the chairperson of the African Commission of the African Union. Ms. Kalambo, just the essence of Tito Mboweni, the role he played within the African continent, your relations with him as well.
I think it's important maybe to recall that the late Tito was one of the eminent Africans who was chosen in 2017 after the 2016 AU Assembly decision on the AU reforms to form an advisory committee that was to assist President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, who was mandated by his peers to spearhead the AU reforms agenda. Maybe let me just tell you a little bit about what the AU reforms agenda meant and why it came about. In 2016, here in South Africa, African AU heads of states decided that the AU needed to evolve as an organization and as an institution to reform, to make sure that it was fit for purpose, that we could own our agenda at 2063 in terms of being able to finance our own ambitions. And therefore, it was also then to start a really complicated process of reform. In fact, the African Union is probably the only multilateral intergovernmental organization that has come to implement a reforms agenda. Neither the UN reform agenda has come to pass, nor that maybe of our counterparts like the EU. What Tito's contribution to that process was his particular and unique experience as South Africa's first post-apartheid Labour Minister, Finance Minister, Governor of the Central Bank, gave him a very unique overview and head view of what reform could look like on a national scale, especially in a country like South Africa after 1994. And that he came to bring to bear within the African Union reforms process, how to make a 55 member state driven organization to become more efficient, more fit for purpose, and to also to allow reform for including quotas for women within the Commission, quotas for the youth, and also to make the Commission leadership, the roles and the selection process more meritocratic. All of those were able to be achieved. But again, I have to tell you about Tito's particular input to that process, which started officially in March 2017. By 2018, Tito was part of the advisory committee that brought about administrative and financial reforms, where we have what is called now the golden rules for financial rigor in terms of the African Union. Further to that, what Tito was able to spearhead in particular was the movement towards financing of the Union for our peace and security ambitions with the African Union Peace Fund, which he became chair of. So the entire governance structure of the Peace Fund, to make it a peace fund that is an endowment that can replenish itself, was really largely due to Tito's very hands-on contribution. From 2 million endowment, we are now at $450 million.
When you look at Mogaba's Kloof, it's a very mountainous, beautiful, exotic, agrarian land, similar to Kigali, Rwanda, a city that he loved dearly. What were your conversations with him, particularly around the agrarian aspect of the nature of the African continent, and in particular, Southern Africa?
Tito, as much as he was a colleague, a mentor, he was also a very dear friend. And his relationship with Kigali, one can understand more, like you said, probably if you see where he comes from, Mogaba's Kloof. I come from Namibia, and it's true that Tito and I would have arguments, rather funny arguments, about whether Windhoek, the capital city of Namibia, or Kigali, the capital city of Kigali, was the cleanest city in Africa. We decided to disagree. He, of course, thought it was Kigali. I still think it is Namibia or Windhoek. But if you see the topography of where he comes from, like you said, it's very, very easy to see why it is that he had such an affinity, not only from a physical point of view of the topography, but also his very strong affinity to the idea of food security and to self-sufficiency. And if you see this area that we're in, it's true that it becomes unsurprising why it is that he was like that. Yeah.
As the Commission, what are some of the fondest memories and what you are going to miss most about Tito, particularly in the transformation of the economic sector in the African continent using the AU Commission?
From an institutional point of view, I cannot underestimate or overstate the importance of Tito's frank and direct talk, but which is so substantive in terms of the issues that he was bringing to bear. And also because I think people underestimate just how respected Tito was on the continent, and also what he brought to in terms of reforming how we look at continental policies, especially financial policies. And Tito, he occupied a very rare space where somebody who could speak his mind to king or pauper, and he would be listened by both. And it's that direct, one could say almost politically incorrect language that would force people to get really to the heart of the matter. And as an institution, that's an extremely important contribution to be able to make. On a personal level, I will particularly miss Tito at the African Union because both of us spoke Afrikaans. So when the going got tough, we'd revert to speaking Afrikaans. And I'll miss that a great deal. But not only that, I think, Tito was one of those people that you would remark when he was not there. You would not remark him when he was there because he was so obviously present and so obviously himself. And it's very bizarre to be here without him.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kalamba. You'll definitely miss those plotting sessions away with Afrikaans so that other people cannot hear you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kalamba. I'm just going to ask my colleague Kwazimandi just to get his camera off of the tripod. I did earlier on see the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwane, who is also here, who did work with Tito, who is a successor to Tito Mboweni in the Ministry of Finance. Also, there are other members such as Mondli Kungubele, who was the Deputy Minister in the era of Tito Mboweni as the Minister of Finance. You can also see Mr. Dixon Musamula here. I am going to quickly just grab the former Deputy Minister of Finance, Mondli Kungubele. Mr. Kungubele, just your message on your former colleague, your former minister, when you were there at Finance Treasury?
Well, he made his impact, very candid leader, astute politician and a manager, a fiscal stability activist. I repeat, candid, what you saw is what you got. He lived for this country until he shockingly disappeared.
What are some of the fondest memories you shared, particularly around the finances of the country, knowing that you come from the left perspective and he, a moderate, an economist, largely associated with capital?
He didn't like bailout. He didn't like bailout. Two, he was cynical about slow speed in actually adopting technology. I was telling the former DG now that, do you remember when you had to wake me up when he was reluctant to sign the memos because the memos were hard copies? I had to call him at 6. He said, when are you going to turn those documents into digital structure? Sometimes he was reluctant to attend meetings. Says, I'm in Makgoba's I must be able to attend meetings wherever I am. When are you going to digitize these meetings? So he was ahead of the curve. And at times very much intolerant with the slow speed. We'll always remember him for that he wanted South Africa to be a reputable global participant. That's all I can say.
I remember staff at Treasury used to complain that they've got to drive to Makgoba's Kloof to get documents signed.
Some of us refused.
Mr. Dixon Musamula, Deputy Minister, who also worked with Tito Mboweni, I am going to try and steal the Minister of Finance. When are you implementing Mr. Mboweni's wish of a state bank? Just transform African Bank into a state bank.
There's a lot of state banks. a lot of state banks. This man is running another state bank, the Post Bank. A lot of Post Bank. What Mr. Mboweni was trying to argue is that we've got to consolidate the DFIs into a single bank. I don't know whether that is good in the interest, being that they've got different specialization.
Thank you very much. That is the Minister of Finance, that the Enoch Kotongwane, the person, has arrived. We are seeing, showing you live visuals now of the chairperson of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, who is alongside the Secretary General Fikile Mbalula, and Tony Rachuna, who is the MEC of Transport in the province. Behind them is Ruben Madaje, the Provincial Secretary of the ANC in the province of Limpopo. They are here to pay their last respects to their fallen hero, fallen struggle stalwart in the form of Tito Titus Mboweni, who is a former Minister of Finance, revered politically. You can see the Secretary General there of the African National Congress, Gwede Mantashe, is also alongside with them. The procession will enter at any point in time. The Master of Ceremonies at this point in time is Dr. David Masondo, who is the Deputy Minister of Finance in the country, who is a protege of Tito Mboweni. He also visited Makgabe's Kloof on a number of occasions to engage with Tito Mboweni on monetary fiscal policies of the country and also the economic trajectory of the country. As you can also see, Nomvula Mokonyane, the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, is also here for them to accompany their comrade, their struggle stalwart, into his final resting place. Katlego, I am also not alone. I am with my colleague Katlego Nyoni, who is also covering this particular funeral with us here in this Nkowa Stadium in Limpopo. Over to you, Katlego.
Thank you very much, Samkele. Yes, indeed, the sun might be extremely hot at Nkowa Stadium, but it has indeed set for the country. I'm going to be speaking to the childhood friend of the late finance minister. Of course, the procession has just arrived here at the Nkowa Stadium after it left the area of Heinesberg. But perhaps let me bring in the childhood friend of the late finance minister, Tito Mboweni, just to speak to him and let him reflect on the friendship he shared with the late minister. Simeon Oshwana, thank you very much for your time on SABC News. Talk to me and reflect about the friendship that you've shared with the late minister.
Thank you, Katlego. Thank you for the opportunity. It's a sad day indeed for us as friends and family to have lost a man of Tito Mboweni's nature. We have met in 1974 as school friends, and initially we knew each other as friends. We became very close. Our love for learning and our love for the English language. So we clicked. It was not only myself. We had other people like Mr. Edward Mboweni. We had other people, who we were learning with. So it is very touching to see that instead of having a beautiful celebration while he was still alive, we have to come together in this fashion to lay him to rest. So basically, we were from 1974 until now when he passed in 2024. It's about 50 years of long-time friendship. But subsequently, as we were close, we only discovered that our fathers were brothers because their mothers were sisters. So it is just a hybrid kind of a relationship, but with me and him were friends.
And just very shortly for me, earlier on I saw the former finance minister, Trevor Manuel, arriving in the stadium. What can you tell us about the friendship between the two?
What I know about former minister Trevor Manuel, I had a short stay in Cape Town during my studies there at UCT. I would visit my brother Tito, and most of the time when we were there, he would come to visit. Tito. So they were very, very close. I think they shared most of the time, and even when they had to share other things, they would. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, the program has indeed started at the Nkwankwa Stadium. To my left, members of the ANC, most of them are singing hymns, but I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Samkele Maseko.
Indeed, Katleho, mourners have arrived here. As you can see in the visuals, the president of the country will be seated alongside the family. You can see the premier of Limpopo, Popi Ramathupa. I'm just going to try and steal and go to the man who has been effectively hiding himself in Barberton, Mpumalanga. They call him the cat, the former deputy president of South Africa. How are you, DP?
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Okay.
Where have you been?
I'm okay. Okay. It's nice to be home. Yeah, you can see I'm look much better.
Just Mr. Mabuza, your words on the legacy and times of Tito Mboweni. You worked with him as the Minister of Finance when you were the Deputy President of the country.
Oh, what a good man. We'll always miss Tito. I mean, his presence will always be felt. Very, very outgoing, very jovial person, but serious when it's time to be serious. We've lost a friend, lost a comrade.
Just some of the fondest memories you shared with him politically and on the side shows of the political space.
Well, a lot. He used to visit me at home in Cape Town a lot. Yeah, I remember we were always quibbling about the shoes that he's wearing. And each time he will come with those shoes, he'll say, I know. You'll make noise about my shoes, don't worry. And I finally gave up and I accepted that he likes his shoes. But yes, each time you'll visit, we'll engage in a serious discussion till late and you'll go.
Just to steal the opportunity, former Deputy President, the country is at a crossroads. Your party, the ANC, dipped under 50%. Your province, Mpumalanga, the province of the rising sun, heavily affected by the men from Gatawatunu Senkandla, particularly when you go to the Mkondo, Piet areas. What is your thinking of the current political landscape in the country and your organization, the ANC, as Tito departs the land of the living?
Well, the ANC, it's facing serious challenges within. It started long ago, and instead of getting better, I think it's getting worse. I'm sure the current leadership will look at the situation and find the best way to respond. I think we can still respond to the situation. We can still change. We can still do what is right. The current situation, well, there's nothing to say much because we have lost the elections. We've lost. Now, if you have lost, you are no longer in charge. You'll always find a way of negotiating with other people, and that's a tactical way of responding to current environment. And I'm sure the ANC will learn from this current situation. And we're here, all of us, to help where necessary.
On national television, I'm here declaring that you and I have a date next week, Saturday, in Barberton, a sit-down interview. You know who I will come with.
You want to come see me? Okay. I learned that you are now a married man.
Indeed, Deputy.
And you didn't invite me. So what happened?
I tried to call you.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Thank you.
The man I know, when he's quiet, he's usually cooking something. What are you cooking towards 2027?
No, currently nothing. There's nothing on the fire. No, I'm not cooking anything. Okay, thank you.
That is the former Deputy President of South Africa and former Deputy President of the African National Congress, David Tabete Mabuza, speaking on the issues of politics within the country, speak on the legacy of Tito Mboweni. There you had it, Katlego Nyoni. We did have it live at the SABC. Over to you, Katlego.
Thanks once more, Samkele. Yes, indeed, that program is about to start. The procession has arrived after it left Johannesburg. We expect that that program will start soon. Directing the program is Deputy Finance Minister David Masondo. The Limpopo Premier, Pope Ramatuba, will also give opening remarks and an opening address. Of course, the main eulogy address will be delivered by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Earlier on, we saw that cortege leave the area of Johannesburg, situated about 50 kilometers from where we are. Indeed, mourners are beginning to arrive at the stadium. To my right, there are members of the public that are seated on the grandstands at the Ngowa Stadium. They are currently singing songs, ANC-led songs, in honor to remember the late finance minister. Some of them have been at the stadium as early as 8 a.m. when, of course, the church service there started at the Roman Catholic Church in the area of Johannesburg. We're going to show our viewers as well to my left. There is a marquee that has been set up. So the stadium consists of two marquees which have been erected, and that process was finalized last night as arrangements ahead of the official funeral get underway. Then the late minister will be laid to rest at Bodweni village, which is about 30 kilometers from where we currently are. You pass several villages as you drive to that particular village. You pass Lenyenye, you pass Gabaza, you also pass Mage. These are some of the areas that are on the way as the cortege will be moving towards the Bodweni area, which is where Mr. Tito Mboweni will be laid to rest. I'm going to try and see if I can speak to some of the people that are in attendance at the funeral service in Ngowa Stadium. Good morning, Mama. How are you today?
I'm fine, and you, sir?
I'm all right, thank you. You are live on SABC News. We see that you are here as part of the mourners that are in attendance. What can you tell us about, Mr. Mboweni and the role that he may have played, if any?
He's a big brother to us. He's a big brother. I remember one day he invited us to his house in Makhubaskloof. He set up a lunch. It was amazing, me and my kids and the family. So we're going to miss him a lot.
Yes, and that's one of the fondest memories you recall about him. What sort of man was he to you personally?
He was a brother, actually. Yeah, he was a brother because he... when we talk to him, he could advise us, do this, especially when coming to businesses. He would say, don't sit down and do nothing. You must wake up and work. Yes.
Thank you very much. What's your name?
Sonti Mbungana.
Sonti?
Mbungana.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mbungana. You had there someone painting a very wonderful memory that they shared with the late finance minister. As I'm speaking to you now, the marquee is getting filled. Mourners are indeed arriving ahead of the official start of the program. It will then proceed to Bodweni village, and this is where we're going to see SABC's flag bearers officially remove the flag from the coffin and then hand it over to the family before the family then conduct their burial rites at Bodweni Cemetery.